One of my buddies is wanting a custom L desk to take up one of his rooms in his newly purchased house. So the house room is like 10 by 10, maybe, not entirely sure. Kind of 9.5. It's an older house, so the measurements aren't proper. But we came up with the design of doing an L, and this wall here has a window in the middle. So we were going to do a 8-foot by 26-inch top, and on the other side we were going to do a 5-foot by 26-inch top. And the way that this would work would be you'd have about 7 feet of play here, about 8 feet of play here, and it would work pretty well in the room. I've never made an L top before. I've made plenty of desks and cabinetry and whatnot with this machine, so I figured let's try to figure this out. And my brain naturally decided we should do some kind of subframe. So my first construction here was a 2x4 subframe. Basically a little bit smaller than this, probably 6 or so inches more narrow, so it would be hidden and I could hide it with trim. But I didn't like the concept of having something thick and almost 4 inches thick underneath the top. I wanted to try to like mitigate this, so we changed it to using 3/4 inch Baltic birch, cutting that at 2.5 inches and running the 3/4 inch perpendicular here. After that, I decided I probably need some more support in these areas, so I came up with a 3-leg design that runs a right triangle here, with this distance being double this distance, or 1.5 this distance. I figured that would give us the best support for this desk. I can change it depending on my testing once I put it all together. And the legs would be situated like this, 1, 2, 3, and then these two things here would be drawer faces. And if we come over to here, I did like a section cut of the face of the 8-foot run. You have like your subframe top, your top. Obviously right here you have your other piece, like left off the other drawer. And then you'd have this little drawer box of 4 drawers, 3 being the same size and the bottom one being slightly larger. I assumed this would be a pretty simple design, look nice, and come together pretty well. And I have already cut my parts and manufactured the cabinetry for the drawer boxes. Going to be the left side drawer. This will be edge banded. I'm just mocking it up with the clamps. I have the grain and everything going all the same direction. This will be your only other part that has an edge banding. I could have mitered them, but it didn't matter. Your drawers and drawer fronts will be here, so you'll never see this stuff. So that's fine. This is where the top goes. I made a 2.5 inch reveal on the left side, or I guess right side of this cabinet, left side of the other one, because there is a subframe that will get mounted into this, and the top will go on top of this. And then I have face plates cut for the area right here where the subframe would be visible. So after I edge band and get everything finished, we'll have this really cool drawer front. But the sickest part about everything for these little cabinets I'm making him are I found 2 sets of scrap pieces of core with veneer that matches, so I was able to cut him drawer boxes that the grain actually aligns and matches his face, so it'll look like it's one unison piece even though these are 2 separate pieces. So as you can see here, this piece's grain matches the under piece's grain, so all the way across these match all the way up to the top. So his drawers will look like they were made from the same piece and pulled off of the same drawer, which makes it have a really unique and high-end feel. And I was able to do it with scraps, so that's kind of awesome. Stay tuned. I'll try to post more vids and pics of the actual finished product when I'm done. Here are some of the photos that are just showcasing some of the things that were in the previous video. As you can see, this is just the grain alignment. Here we'll have the subframe with the pocket jig screws, so you can see how it's fabricated, kind of the layout, some overview, and here is a picture of the mock fit, so you can get an idea of how everything works up close. After I did the mock fit, I went and found legs and some blocks, which you'll see here. I think I recorded a video that explains what I did, and it might come up after these photos. Just stay tuned, and hope you enjoy the process as much as I had fun building it. I mean, it was definitely a first for me, and I definitely felt like I learned a lot and had a lot of fun. So just enjoy. And here are some photos of the actual cabinets built and finished with the edge banding. I'll have some close-ups so you can see how the
edge banding, even though the grain's not exactly the same, it blends pretty seamlessly and it works out. Obviously, a trained woodworker will be able to tell the difference, but I think it looks pretty good for using scrap material.
And boom, just like that, we mounted it on. Pretty easy. Just have these little Craig jig screws here in the bottom corners. As you can see, just little 45-degree screws. Holds it all together, made it so it's only on the parts that you can't see. So even if, for whatever reason, you did take all your drawer boxes out, the only part you see Craig screws would be the back wall. The tops and the bottoms are on the bottom, just for easier deconstruction. So if you ever have to take this apart, you can take your top off and reach into your face plates and your back plates here. For the sake of my sanity, I built the top and the bottom onto the sides and the back first, just so I could have everything lined up for the faceplate. But for like anybody else, if they wanted to completely flat pack this and take this apart, they could just pull this top off while they're taking their desk apart, and then get into the cabinet from any side and get all the other screws. No big deal. Or take the bottom off and get into it from the bottom. Take your sides off. So I put the faceplate on, screwed it all together. I did a few tests with the slides. They were getting stuck on the front frame. They said they got about a 2mm tolerance, but I noticed they definitely didn't. I gave them about a 1.5. They were getting stuck, so I had to machine down a small, like, 2mm groove on each side where the slides are here. All I did was I put the piece up on the CNC, made a little drawing, and cleaned them up with a 1/2-inch routing bit. There's still some of them that touch a little bit, as you can see. They're not like perfect. Let me go ahead and zoom in on this one. Like if I push this in, as you can hear that click noise, that is the grommet of the back part of this slide getting nicked on that front right there. So a little bit of resistance where if I go like to this one, you can see how, oh my bad, you can see how springy this is, so it clears it. This one down here doesn't quite clear it, it gets caught, but I think it will work. I'm not sure. On the second one, I plan on just sanding it down a little bit, maybe running a file or something across it, trying to help it out. It's not noticeable, and then once the drawers are on it, I feel like it'll be pretty clean. And then I have little feet on these 1.5-inch blocks that I am, if it zooms in, going to mount on the bottom and screw in from the top, because you're never going to see inside of this. Obviously there's going to be drawers here. The thing you're really going to see on this one will be this and this side, so these will be your viewing angles, and there's obviously grain-aligned drawers that sit up here and go all the way down, so you're never going to notice it. This is going to have a tabletop coming out. The subframe that sits inside of the cabinetry has a faceplate of trim. As you can see, that's right here. It's going to go across it and match. I just haven't edge banded any of that yet or done any of those work, because making sure the functionality of the hardware is more important. And I also clamped up some 4-inch by 31-ish inch pieces. So it's about a 1/2-inch particle board, or not particle board, Baltic birch, or like lumber grade plywood, some pretty dense, decent shit. And I just clamped them together, as you see. I know it's not the most perfect clamping apparatus to get perfect compression across the entire thing, but I only need about a 2 to 3-inch chunk right here. So after I cut this one and see what it looks like, we'll know for sure. But these are also getting miter fold wrapped in the exact same walnut. So finished size will be around like 2 3/4 to 3.5 inches, depending on what I have to cut the legs down. And the legs, there's 3 of them, are getting mounted to the subframe over here, which are going into the bottom corner, probably one right there, and then subsidizing the same distance to be like right there. So we'll have 3 legs and the 3 points where the 2 tabletops meet for the L. I ironed on some walnut veneer folded it over, did the other side, folded it over to the other side, and folded it over to the other side. So now we have a 3-inch thick table leg that is Baltic birch on the inside, but grain matching veneer on the outside.
Okay, I want to take the second to say I got this far in the process with everything, and I began to create the top for the table, and the person I'm making it for, his name is Gabe. I'm sure I've said that before in this video. But I decided to bring him in on the process of creating his desk, and because of that, it threw a wrench in my plan. And I'm going to attach a photo here in a second so you can see what the wrench was. But the initial plan was the desk and the cabinetry and everything to be made out of scrap walnut. But upon him arriving and seeing some of the veneers we had available, he fell in love with a species called spalted maple. And I do believe the desk looks phenomenal once finished with this spalted maple. But in the process, I was a little nervous. But just stay tuned and see. You'll really like the outcome. I know I do. Here's a little sneak preview of the unfinished version of it mocked up. Like I said, I think it will work. In this moment, I was a little bit more confident in our decision. Here are the drawer boxes that I constructed for the cabinets, and shortly I will show you them inside of their homes. This was a bit tricky because I had to figure out the proper spacing to have them stick out for them to be properly hidden, because the drawer faces have to be able to be pushed in enough to activate the opening of the slide and the closing and locking of the slide. So it took me a few tries and a few mistakes to get it perfect, but we got there in the end. And at this point in the process, I realized I did not explain anywhere that the slides I'm using are pushed open, pushed to close. Maybe I did explain that, but the concept is there's no hardware. So put that in here right now. And now we finish the desk, and in this process, I had a lot of hiccups. I by no means know how to finish. I'm very new to the whole finishing process. I had everything that you could go wrong in this process. I had milky layers, I had texturing, I had dust, debris. I had people walking into the room and bringing whatever the hell they bring in when they walk by it. I had runs in the finish. I had to sand it, restart. I sprayed 2 different types of finish, causing a chemical reaction that made bubbles go everywhere. All in all, it was a huge headache, and I had a lot of fun trying to spend a week to get it to work out. But as you can see by these photos, in the end, we got it. We got the grain alignment, the drawer faces on there. Everything came together great. And the tops, man, those were pretty difficult. I had to finish those like 4 or 5 times. As you can see, there's all kinds of different things going on. They look fine, they look great, but I'm a perfectionist, and there were so many little details and hiccups that I just felt like I had to keep restarting and restarting and restarting. So hundreds of dollars later, and a bunch of time sanding and wet sanding and trying to figure out why I messed up, I finally got this spalted maple to really like feel like it was actually pretty. But I mean, the wood speaks for itself. I think people really love spalted maple for the fact that it is very unique, rotted, and different. But for no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you the finished product coming up. And here you go. This is the install in its final location, all finished. And I have to say, I feel a great sense of relief. There was a lot of stress towards the end of this project. The finish wasn't going well, like I said earlier, but somehow we pulled through, and I am pleasantly surprised with the capabilities that I was able to perform. I never really truly had 100% confidence in my abilities. I just knew I was a doer/perfectionist. So if I didn't get it the first time, I just keep trying until I figured it out. And I don't think that I mentioned it, and maybe I did, but I also made pockets for lights for this desk. So there's about 36 plus feet of LED lights recessed under the top. There'll be photos of everything finished throughout the process here. You'll get to see it all. I also made some shelving and did some other work in the room to help make it look more like a gaming/man cave room for my buddy. So you'll see those being hung up here. And yeah, just enjoy.
This is the 6 foot piece.